Recording. Yep, that's going. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick Sadripur. I'm the program coordinator here at California Sea Grant, and we are so thrilled of the overwhelming interest in the 2022 California Sea Grant State Fellowship opportunity. And we're really excited and thankful that you're going to spend the next hour or so with us through this webinar. I wanted to introduce, I have two team members on this webinar as well, Madeline Roycroft, who's also a member of the Science Integration team, and Caitlin Scully, who's a member of our communications team. Madeline and Caitlin, I don't know if you want to say a quick hello.
Hey, happy you guys are able to tune in. This is Caitlin.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you all online and looking forward to explaining the fellowship program.
Thank you. So they'll be helping me on the back end as we go through this webinar. Again, we are going to use the Q&A feature on Zoom, and I'm sure many of us have been familiar with video conferencing platforms at this point, but we'll go over some of those logistics. And again, just to give a preface for this whole informational webinar, I myself am an alumnus of this program. I was a fellow with the California Ocean Protection Council in 2015, and Madeline was actually a fellow with the Port of San Diego. So hopefully, as we get to the questions and answers portion of the webinar, we'll be able to give you some general tips, as well as draw on from our own experiences of this fellowship opportunity. So again, we're not going to use the chat. Hopefully we can have you all direct questions into the Q&A feature. That's the best way for us to stay organized and make sure we try to address every single question that comes in. Again, we are recording this webinar. It will be posted on our website for all of you, and we'll also make sure to follow up for everyone who RSVP'd, who registered for this webinar. And I also want to direct you to, if you have a question that's super specific that I might not get to today, just because it's very nuanced or detailed, feel free to send it to sgproposal@ucsd.edu. That's the best way where we can answer any questions that come in. So today I'm going to give you an overview of the whole fellowship program, of California Sea Grant in general, then our state fellowship program. We're going to go into the application logistics, specifics, some tips, and then we'll end with some time to answer some questions, follow up with any remaining issues or items that you guys would like to discuss and have us address today. So giving you the big picture, Sea Grant is a federal state university partnership. There's actually 34 programs throughout the whole United States. You can think of every coastal or even Great Lakes state has a Sea Grant program, including Guam and Puerto Rico. And in California, we have two Sea Grant programs. Our program, California Sea Grant, which is at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at UC San Diego. And we have a sister program run out of the University of Southern California. And really our purpose is to support actionable research to solve coastal management and relevant issues in the locations that we serve. So we fund grant and fellowship opportunities for science and students. We provide grant administration services for state and federal agency partners. We also have a number of extension specialists sprinkled throughout all the California coast who work on a wide range of coastal and marine issues. We also have a robust communications, media, library services team, and we leverage our network of state partners across the US and in Guam and Puerto Rico, working on similar issues in their communities. And that is kind of like the big picture version of Sea Grant. Our fellowships are really designed as continuing educational opportunities, training, and workforce development. We have this goal to sort of increase research and education from embedding academically trained individuals in natural resource management policy positions through several fellowship opportunities. And we really use this and see this as, helping provide that educational hands-on training for the next generation of coastal and marine stewardship leaders and policymakers. Our state fellowship, which is really what we're going to talk about today, is actually modeled off of a federal fellowship that we also administer, which is called the Knaus Fellowship. And for those that are interested in federal policy, I would encourage you to look into details about this fellowship opportunity. Applications for 2022 are actually already closed, but for 2023 and for those graduate students, current graduate students that are looking for future opportunities, say in 2023, I would encourage you to go onto our website and look at the Knaus Fellowship opportunity. So our state fellowship is a 1-year, 12-month opportunity that places recently graduated graduate students who have completed their degrees in a federal, state, municipal entity in California that's really working at that interface of science and policy, or really working directly on management issues related to coastal and marine resources. And we've had this program, for over 30 years. Started in 1988, and we have, a robust alumni network that leverages this program. And so you can see over the years, we've actually grown the number of fellowship opportunities that we have. So we like to say that, as a fellow, you're much more than a student. You can see yourself working. You can see yourself placed with a host institution that's really at that nexus of integrating science into their policy and decision making. And so again, we're placing these people with recently completed PhDs, master's degrees, or JDs in a relevant coastal marine field into these offices of these hosts. You're likely to make some substantive contributions to the host, as well as gain a really ground level and high level sort of perspective into what these entities work on every day, the big picture policy questions, as well as some project specific details. And the suite of hosts that we have on offer for 2022 will provide a very robust spectrum of different projects, different policy decision making around all coastal and marine resource issues. And many of our fellowships have alumni have seen this opportunity as a springboard. They've gone on to careers in state agencies, federal agencies, local entities, private consulting, back into academia. It's a real breadth of alumni network that we do have. And that's another sort of bonus of this program and fellowship opportunity, is getting to engage and meet not only the staff and professionals at the host entities, but also amongst your fellowship cohort, in previous cohorts and in future cohorts. And we build this network to kind of create a real powerful Sea Grant tentacles, if you will. So I really want to emphasize that to see this fellowship opportunity is that you're continuing to learn, you're continuing to gain educational experiences, but it's just a little bit different than your academic background. And as some of you may have seen, if you're keeping up on our website, we've actually just released the tentative hosts for 2022. We have many reoccurring hosts who have been hosts in previous years, but we also have a little bit of tweaks on the individual opportunities offered. So I'd encourage you all to go explore our website to see what these individual host opportunities look like. We have all of them posted now. I do want to note that these are tentative, just due to budget concerns and uncertainties with COVID-19. We're trying to add some flexibility given different state budgeting processes, as well as sort of how they determine what their future budget might look like. These tentative postings will be finalized basically in mid-August. And so we have Coastal Commission, state parks, 3 opportunities at Caltrans, California Fish and Game Commission, 2 opportunities at the Ocean Protection Council, 2 at the State Coastal Conservancy, 2 at the State Lands Commission, 3 with the Delta Science Program, and 1 with the Delta Stewardship Council, 1 with the Monterey Bay Aquarium, 1 with NOAA Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, 1 at the Port of San Diego, 2 at the San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission, or BCDC. As many of us know, this acronym SOUP, especially as you get into more agency level work, the San Francisco Estuary Partnership, and then 4 opportunities of State Water Resources Control Board. And so we have a big diversity of the different opportunities and hosts on offer for 2022. And it still feels weird to say 2022. So into the nuts and bolts of how the fellowship works. Essentially, this is a grant award to continue your educational experience. And we're for 12 months of fellows for 2022 will be provided with a stipend of $4,292 per month to be used for their living expenses, health insurance coverage, and general livelihoods. And each fellow will also receive a travel fund. And this travel fund does include professional development opportunities like conferences and trainings, obviously with the travel restrictions and physical distancing restrictions of COVID, the physical travel has been pretty much void over the last year and a half to going on 2 years. But as things open up, we do anticipate fellows being able to use this uh, funding allocation to do in-person travel, either for field work, meetings, workshops, projects associated with their placement host, or for professional development opportunities, again, conferences and trainings. So in terms of eligibility, applicants must be a recent graduate student from a California university. You must have, for 2022, you must have finished your degree after May 1st, 2020, and you must complete all degree requirements before starting the fellowship. And each year we have fellows starting between January and March of that given year. So for next year, for 2022, that means you must complete your degree requirements before either January, February, or March 2022. Generally, we try not to start fellows, the last day of March. However, we can go into a little bit more details about some of the starting guidance that we're providing for fellows for 2022. And I will walk through this timeline briefly, but again, there are more details about this timeline going forward on our website. And so we have these tentative host positions posted on our website. Applications for the fellowship are due at 9 a.m. Pacific time on July 26th. Again, 9 a.m. I will not even say other times to not confuse people, but 9 in the morning. Hopefully that is very clear. We will then screen and review applications. This does have an interview component. So if you make it to that stage, you will be interviewed by California Sea Grant professionals, as well as alumni. As you can see, we do have this sort of uncertainty for hosts budget around COVID-19, withdraw date. And then if selected to be a finalist, that means you are being invited to the matching workshop. Our fellowship works in a matching process. I'll go into a few of those details, but I'm happy to explain more of that as we go. Essentially, we have hosts apply to host a fellow, and in order to match a finalist with a host, we go through a bit of an interview process where hosts give presentations. As you can see, between August 3rd and August 30th and September 3rd, hosts will be giving presentations via Zoom or a video conference platform where finalists can ask questions, learn more about that specific agency opportunity, see some of the faces and meet the current fellow of that host, if they have a current fellow, to get more insight into what that entity does, what this 2022 fellow is likely to contribute to, specific projects perhaps. And it's a great way to get an insight into all of these 14 different agencies that are hosting fellows in 2022. From there, because we found it difficult over the years to have finalists interview with every single host, there'll be sort of a bidding process where the finalists sort of bin which hosts they have most interest in, and that helps us set the schedule of interviews for the matching workshop. Before the matching workshop, though, we do have finalists give presentations about themselves, about what they're interested in, what they're hoping to gain from this experience, and where they see their career trajectory going, to help kind of complete the picture for the hosts in terms of setting up these interviews, because we've found that we can create a very mutual, collaborative partnership through this matching process. So we have the mandatory virtual matching workshop slated for October 4th through 6th. I will highlight again, it says virtual in there. Due to an abundance of caution and just out of lessons we learned from last year, we are going to stick to having our matching workshop this year virtual. It is a series of interviews over those 3 days. It will not be the whole day, mostly 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. with huge punctuated breaks, depending on the schedule for each finalist and each host. And then from there, we go to each finalist and each host provides us with a rank list of their counterparts, and California Sea Grant does the matching, and we announce the fellows, the fellowship matches in October 12th through 15th. And then you can see Fellows will start January to March of 2022. So I hope many of you are familiar with the requirements for the application by now, but I will run through them quickly. It's a brief CV, 2 pages, as well as a education and career goal statement, sort of highlighting your experiences. And really, the crux of the question that I encourage you all to answer is, why do you want to be a California Sea Grant State Fellow? If you work to answer that question in your statement, then you're doing a fantastic job. We require 2 letters of recommendation, and one has to be from a principal academic mentor, an advisor. And if you don't have a particular advisor based off of how your graduate program works, you would just need to get that letter of recommendation from the individual most familiar with your academic performance. And then copies are totally acceptable of your undergraduate and graduate student transcripts. You'll see I've highlighted for the CV and the transcripts to please redact fully all sensitive information that can be on those documents. That includes student IDs, birthdays, addresses, because we don't want to collect that information, frankly, and we don't want to open up any potential sensitive information breaches. I am seeing a question come in, and I will answer it live. So the question is, can we submit more than 2 letters of rec? The answer is our platform will allow you to, but please do not. We will only pick 2 of those letters, probably at random, which does not benefit you, to review, and that's to keep this fair. We want to keep this as objective as possible in our review, and so only submit 2 letters of recommendation. But thank you, that was a good question. So I hope many of you are familiar with. I've seen some people create these recently. So we have an online grant submission platform. It's called EC Grant. And I would encourage you all today, after this webinar, to go to our website and to go to EC Grant and at least create an account and start an application. That would be a huge step forward in working yourself to a completed, submitted application for this fellowship opportunity. It's pretty easy. We make accounts for everything these days. It's no different for our platform. We also really encourage everyone to submit PDFs. It just makes it much more easy on our compilation and review process. Again, the deadline is 9 a.m. on July 26th. And because it's an automated portal, it will close seconds after that deadline. And I just encourage you all, especially on the letters of recommendation, to get on it right now, because those we found in the past are the things that take the longest. And we've done our best to open up early the application period so that current graduate students and recent graduate students have the most amount of time to work to get those letter of recommendations from their advisors and other mentors that they might have. I'll run through some of the evaluation criteria. We look at academic ability, communication skills, diversity and appropriateness of your academic background, career and education goals, and then qualifying experiences can mean a lot, right? Extracurriculars, volunteer work. There's a lot that goes into creating your academic portfolio. Again, sort of, I think a question just came in that I might try to address right after this. Basically, you apply to our entire fellowship program. You're not applying for one unique host position. The goal is to try to broaden the interests and help match the most help match very qualified, energetic future leaders in coastal and marine science and policy with host entities. And so, I would really discourage applicants who are really interested in, say, 1 or 2 hosts and that's it, meaning that they would not accept a match with 90% of the hosts. That's really not the goal or purpose of this program. What I would encourage is, if somebody's really interested in a general area of coastal research, marine management, to look at the different hosts and ask yourself, if I got selected at 80 to 90% of these as my match, would I still pursue that 1 year of educational opportunity and training. That's the goal of this program, is to really help broaden the idea of what a science to policy position in the coastal marine realm can look like. And so, the individual question that I'm trying to answer here is about how many applications do you receive per position. So I might be misinterpreting it, but essentially, we receive more applications than we have offering. Currently, we have 25 host opportunities for 2022. We will receive more than that, likely, at least double to 3 times that amount. But you're not applying to one individual of those host positions. You're applying to the whole suite, and then through the matching process, both the presentations, the binning, and then at the matching workshop where you will interview with, likely over a dozen of those entities. That's where you can really push and test your interests in, am I interested in helping this agency or helping this entity contribute to this project that they need, based upon my skills and based upon what they need. And we found that to be a very effective process. So just to say the fine print out loud, placement at a host is not guaranteed. If that means if you are invited as a finalist to the matching workshop, you are not guaranteed a placement with the hosts. You're not guaranteed a placement with a specific host, and for the hosts, they're not guaranteed placement of a fellow. We do our best to ensure the process is as fair, and we try to ensure the process is as fair and objective as possible. And so we do have different mechanisms. And if you were invited as a finalist to the matching workshop, there will be substantially more details about the process, how it works, and how to set yourself best for success through that process. So I think I answered this question. Does everyone who makes it to the matching workshop get an offer from a site or get placed with a host? The answer is no. There's no guarantees. There's a question about applications that I might touch on in a little bit. So in terms of evaluation, how to set yourself best up for success, I would say, is to be really introspective and be thoughtful about, again, what you want out of this experience and opportunity. So, thinking about specifics in the goal, not necessarily word for word your thesis, but, the general concepts maybe, or why you pursued that topic in the first place. Again, do you have extracurricular activities? What are you interested in? Because sometimes it's hard to gauge from just a CV or even your letters of recommendation, and especially from your transcripts, it's very hard to gauge you as an individual. I think these are some other tips about evaluations, thinking about academic achievement, not in just what was that mile marker, what you reached, but what distance did you cover in order to get there? What experience do you have? Was it a good proposal from a grammar, practical submission of a professional level document? And from the letters of recommendation, we want them to be genuine, and we want them to really elicit the strengths and perhaps even what you need to work on and grow to become a leader and a professional in the coastal and marine science to policy interface. So I think this is my last slide on application tips, but essentially, you want to think of them as a puzzle, and each piece can play a different role. And so as you sort of construct this and put it together, we want to, when we look at these applications, we want to understand who you are, what are you interested in, and why do you want to do this fellowship opportunity? What are you hoping to gain from this experience? And I will say, not just as the sort of program manager of this fellowship now, but as an alumnus, it is much more than just 12 months somewhere. It is a really rewarding experience where I learned things about myself that I'm interested in, that I'm curious about. I learned so much about state government, federal government than I ever thought I would. I learned so much more about finances and fiscal issues than I ever thought I would ever get into in my professional career. And I made friends and, essentially lifelong colleagues through this opportunity. So it is more than just, 12 months out of place. And so, that's my full presentations. Again, we do have a lot of time for questions. As we've seen, like, this is a really good way to answer very general questions. Again, I'll direct any hyper-specific questions to sgproposal@ucsd.edu. But right now, I'm going to kind of go into the Q&A mode and try my best to answer some of these questions after I have some water. So the first one I'm seeing is letters of recommendation are also due July 26th. Are we submitting them after they give them to us, or are the recommendators submitting them themselves? So if you go onto eCgrant and log in and see the forms, we do have a sort of, I'm not going to say the right word. There is a system where essentially you put in information about your referee, and the system and platform will contact them to receive the letter themselves. If they want to be extra certain that we receive that letter on time, they can be mailed to our email as well, directly from your recommendator or your referee. And I think to answer that question, yes, they're also due with that due date of July 26th at 9 a.m. So this question is interesting. For applicants with disabilities, do we need to include that in the personal statement? I would say I would leave that up to you to express and convey any situation in life that has either challenged you or helped drive you to achieve where you are now, either professionally, academically, or personally. It is a personal statement, and so I would encourage you to, again, be thoughtful and introspective about conveying, who you are, why are you pursuing what you're pursuing, where you come from to some respects, and sort of where you want to go and how this opportunity might help you get there. Sorry, there's, as you can imagine, there are multiple windows I am trying to navigate. Are international students allowed to apply? This gets hyper nuanced where I cannot give you sort of a general answer because there are so many different personal situations. So I would encourage you to contact our email with any hyper specific about your individual situation. I'm sorry, I can't give you a specific answer there. I mean, the only thing I know there's several of these questions coming in. Essentially, so this is Sea Grant, as I hope I explained. We're a part of NOAA, and so we do have federal funding coming into this program, and so we do have to adhere to any federal guidelines in terms of who we fund. And so again, for those couple that have asked that question about international students and eligibility, I would encourage you to reach out to our email, because again, there are so many situations that I'm not going to be able to give you sort of a yes, no blanketly. This seems like a great question. If you are interested in many topics from coastal management, coral conservation, fisheries, how do we hone in on one topic and see more focused in the application? That's an excellent question. And I would say it's many of us are interested in a variety of topics, right? And our skill sets are suited potentially for a variety of those topics. I would encourage you definitely to convey your interest in those multiple topics and fields, and hone in on where you see yourself fitting in those topics, in parts of those topics, how those topics might overlap, and you see yourself fitting in that overlap and gap. I think at least in my professional career and through my fellowship opportunity, there was things that I was explicitly really, really interested in. And then through the presentations of the hosts and through the interviews, I don't want to say I've, 180'd, but I kind of pivoted in terms of where I saw my skill sets really being the most effective to not solve problems, but help get towards solutions or help get towards bridging gaps where I saw gaps. And I think that's where this opportunity is huge. You know, we've had people coming in with immense backgrounds in a very hyper-focused topic. And then through, you know, the host presentations and through the interviews, they end up at an entity that's totally different than what they've done academically or in the field on working on projects, or even, you know, what you would call like super focused on their thesis. Yet they have skills that can contribute to that other topic at their host entity. And so I really encourage everyone, especially at this stage where you're just applying to get to that finalist level and to get to invited to the matching workshop, to be open-minded when you read the different position descriptions on our website. Because while on the surface or like on a first glance, you might say like, I am totally not interested in working on or contributing to a project on X, Y, and Z. When you see the host presentation, or when you understand sort of like the level of access that a fellow has in that agency for those 12 months, it is a huge opportunity to gain insight, where often we struggle with the bureaucracy of government or the black box of public meetings. And I would say it's really valuable, any of those opportunities. You know, I myself would be interested in any of those opportunities, even ones that right out of grad school I probably would have maybe brushed off. I hope I actually got to answering that question. Okay, I'm trying to. Is there any preference over PhDs, masters, or JD students taken? No, I would say there's no preference. I think, you know, in my experience with this program, everyone brings a different skill set to the table from a variety of opportunities. And I would say too, you know, there is no level of expertise required beyond a graduate degree. And that's to say, you know, you don't have to have worked 5 years in between your undergrad and graduate student degree to be eligible for this. And if you did work 5 years in between, like that could be really, really powerful and beneficial to you if there's something you learned in that time you spent in the workforce that you now have more academic training that you want to help bring to a specific entity. So there's no preference there. Are there any disadvantages to being a returning applicant who did not make the cut last year? I would say you might have an advantage because you've already been through at least the logistics of the process. And I'll leave it there. Do I need to be able to move from my current location in order to be placed with a host position? I'm gonna drink some water before answering that. So COVID-19 epidemic was terrible for many reasons. And one of the byproducts of the virtual remote situation is that the in-office, in-person experience that a fellowship opportunity like this might really benefit from were null and void, right? We're all through Zoom, we're all remote, working on I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this. So going forward, though, there are hosts, and I'm not going to be able to predict that now, who will be very adamant of the ability of fellows to relocate to those host offices. It you know, essentially used to be a full requirement of this fellowship opportunity program, where you know, a fellow would be placed in that in a place where they could physically go into the office every day. You know, I moved to Sacramento so that I could go to the office every day. I anticipate that many of the hosts for 2022 will really require a individual to relocate to their office location. That being said, you know, currently it is basically a host by host basis, if that makes sense, where each host is essentially making that determination about how much they want to emphasize / require that if and when we can go back into the offices based upon their county health guidelines, state health guidelines, individual office guidelines. how much they want that fellow to be located at that host institution. I feel like I'm rambling. Maybe Caitlin and Madeline, did that make sense, or should I try to reword my answer?
I think this is Caitlin. I think there's so many unknowns right now that the answer is maybe. We're not sure.
I would say that it's very likely for, again, starting in January 2022, that many of these hosts will highly encourage / require fellows to be willing to relocate to where their office is located. Okay. Any advice for graduate students early in their degree programs? What can be done now to better prepare for fellowship in the 2020X question mark? That's a good question. So some of you may not be eligible to be a fellow in 2022. And so, I would encourage you to look at our website again, see the experiences of previously placed fellows, as well as, you'll see the fellows for 2022 over the next few months. And really, this fellowship is different from other fellowship opportunities we offer because it's policy focused. And so if you're really interested in policy, we can all engage in coastal management, marine management policy now. There are public meetings, there are opportunities to understand which agencies make which decisions about what. And if you're really interested in engaging in that science to policy process, I would encourage you to start pulling threads about who gives the permits, or who makes the regulations, or who's informing the policy decisions for X, Y, and Z, whatever you're interested in. As well as, just keep trying to understand what your skills are as an individual, academically, socially, and professionally, and where you see yourself, again, fitting in these various host opportunities. Are student loans given forbearance or deferment during the 12 months? I am not able to provide tax or financial advice. However, if you do have a specific question about it, I would say try to email SG Proposal, and we'll try to give you an answer. Again, it's going to depend on your specific situation. Here's a question about so I've noticed in the past fellows placement descriptions on the website, many did research, peer review, or not. Okay, so I think this question is asking the position descriptions on the website sort of talk about research, peer review, or not necessarily policy related work. So can I go over what sort of projects might be sorry, I moved it. Now I'm trying to read what sort of activities a fellow might do. So, I think it just depends on your definition of policy. As 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 somebody who's a fellow, like, policy can mean scheduling meetings, putting together workshops, putting together working groups, taking minutes, creating presentations for appointed officials. It can be summarizing whole sections of the academic literature so that it's digestible by decision makers who might not have a scientific background. Those are all, in my mind, policy related work. Understanding the big picture to the nuts and bolts of how different entities and agencies make those decisions that influence not only the management, but perhaps even the research needs of a given sector. Hopefully that answered that question. If you have if I didn't quite nail it, can you please try rewording it or sending it again, the Q&A again? Now I'm seeing this other one. I'm very data analysis, data management side. So there's a question about, if my particular interests are really only a good fit for one or two of the hosts, is this too narrow of a focus to be successful? So again, I think in general, I would say that's pretty narrow, and this might not be the right opportunity for you if really data-driven um, data-driven projects or uh, working with data, you know, all day, every day is your key desire and core professional development growth, um, where you see yourself growing professionally. There certainly are opportunities, and this might be go to that previous question. So in those host descriptions, of course, they had to submit those back in May, and some of them are more general, while some of them are very project specific. They have something key in mind. I would say most of the host, all of the hosts want to be mentors. They would not have applied to host if they didn't want to be a mentor. And so they absolutely are going to take your personal interests, your personal desires to work on data or crunch numbers into mind during the matching process, and if and when you eventually become a fellow with them. And so, from your question about, working with data, I would say every one of those hosts works with a form of data. Again, depending on your definition of it and how you're thinking about it, they all have to track many, many, many different things. Some of them are funding different research grants. Some of them are funding policy and planning grants. All of them are working to achieve goals, likely through a strategic plan that requires metrics and tracking to make sure they achieve those outcomes, or that they're held accountable for trying to achieve those outcomes. And so in terms of, where do you see your interest overlapping with those host descriptions? I would say read those, but do keep a bit of an open mind that the specifics and how you can be integrated into that host are going to allow you to flex your skills. And to that, I might ask Madeline to maybe tackle that about like how she saw her position with the port, maybe from, just reading the description to using the skills that she had and the mindset, the skills she had and skills she wanted to grow.
Yeah,
Sorry to put,
definitely.
oh, go for it.
I'm happy to touch on that a little bit more. So I also came from a data science background and was thinking the same thing when I applied for the state fellowship. And ultimately, when I ended up getting matched with the Port of San Diego, the host description and the description in general for the state fellowship doesn't necessarily talk about data science specifically. But one thing that the hosts, from my perspective, that I've seen is that they are very welcoming to letting you tap into your existing skill set and help them improve, certain things that they have going on at their agency that you might be able to help them with. And they would really value that skill set, but also, to know that this is an opportunity for you to be able to expand your own skill set into that more policy or management area as well. And so there's a lot of growing room there also. So I would just encourage you to ask yourself how much you'd be willing to expand beyond the skill set that you have, and grow and learn from that, and also be able to, help your host agency achieve some of their goals as well with your skill set.
That's perfect. Thanks, Madeline. All right, we have two more questions. What aspects of personal statements from past applicants stand out to you, / would you consider made the application more competitive overall? This one's kind of easy. I would say applications where I felt like I got a good picture of the individual, where I understood sort of what they've done to some extent, and what skills they see them having, what skills they're hoping to grow, where they want to go, and specifically, how does this opportunity help them get there, or help them figure out narrow down the paths of how to get there. That would be my biggest recommendation. Can you explain the graduation date requirement and if there's any flexibility? do you need to defend your thesis submitted before this happens? So I would say it's a pretty hard eligibility requirement. Essentially, this is learning from the past, where we don't want people to go into this fellowship opportunity where you're looking to devote full time to a host and the fellowship experience, but in the back of your head you still have to finish your thesis, or you haven't defended yet, or you still have minor things to do to complete your degree. And so we really, this is geared for a graduate degree completion opportunity, where we want you to be fully focused on what's ahead. Not that your academic achievements are not important, they absolutely are, but we want you to be able to be fully focused on the fellowship, on the host, and developing your skills further. That's where I'm encouraging you all to think about this as an education and a training opportunity, that it can expand what you've done academically or professionally before. So I know I've been going off for a while. Oh, new question. Perfect. Nope, it's a perfectly good question. So the question is for 2023 applications, what will the graduation deadline be? And so essentially it's kind of like a rolling year. So for 2023, it should be May. I'm going to tell you the right answer. If I click through my slides appropriately, it would be May 1st, 2021. Essentially, it's kind of like a 2-year rolling. So right now for 2022, you have to have graduated after May 1st, 2020, and before you start the fellowship, which would be January to March. So I'm going to leave the line open for about 5 more minutes. I really, really want to thank you all there. I don't see any questions coming in. If I did miss your question and accidentally moved it, please feel free to type it again in the Q&A box. Really, this is a amazing fellowship program and opportunity, and I am always very humbled by the energy and creativity from each cohort that I've seen come through the California Sea Grant State Fellowship. This is our current cohort up here on this collage, and there is a huge diversity of backgrounds and interests and skills, and there's a huge need from all of these hosts. And so it's really rewarding to see these achievements over the fellowship year through the state fellowship program, where many of our 2020 fellows might have struggled through the remote virtual fellowship opportunity, but now I'm getting to call some of them colleagues who are working and employed by these state agencies or federal agencies or municipal partners or NGOs or private consulting firms. And it's just awesome to see that how much they've achieved in those 12 months, and how it's kind of launched a few careers that I'm really looking forward to interacting through my professional career, and I know will become people, leaders in their own sectors and in their own ways. And so I'm not seeing any other questions come in. Again, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to put our email, sgproposal@ucsd.edu, up, because I do know that there are a couple of specific questions that came in. But I'll stay on for another couple minutes if there's any last minute questions coming in. But I just again want to give a huge thank you to you all for attending, for your interests. And if this fellowship opportunity doesn't seem right for you, I would encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, because we do have one-off opportunity fellowships come through, like our extension fellowships. One was on marine plastics and marine debris. One was on kelp restoration and science and research. Keep Sea Grant in mind keep California Sea Grant in mind if this opportunity might not be right for you, because we might have an opportunity that is, and we really, really thank you for your interest. Where do we sign up for the newsletter? That is probably the excellent question, and I'm going to grab the link, unless Caitlin can beat me to it and put it in the chat.
I'll grab it and put it in the chat.
Okay, thanks, Caitlin. And you're welcome. please reach out to us with any specific questions. Again, that's the end of the webinar. I will stay on until 12:55 if there are any other questions that come in, and as Caitlin finds that link and puts it in the chat. But again, thank you all so much. I hope you're doing well, hanging in there. And congratulations, I probably should start this. Congratulations for all of you that graduated this last spring. It is an incredible achievement to do under COVID and remote learning. And just really kudos to you all that graduated for crossing that finish line. It's really impressive achievement. And I really look forward to interacting with you all more. Thanks, Caitlin. She put the link in the chat. Oh, right. I'm seeing another question come in. Is wetland ecology and conservation an appropriate topic of interest? Yes, I would say just yes. I think, you know, given the state of wetlands and where they've gone, or where they were, where they are now, and sort of some of the future projections for their persistence, growth, diminishing, going forward with a number of issues from development to fill, water quality, invasive species, climate change, you name it. There are several entities that work around wetland ecology conservation. And I would also say there are many transferable skills from the wetland ecology conservation realm and world that are transferable to a whole swath of other host entities. There's another question about volunteering. So I mentioned volunteering. Okay, I see. You mentioned volunteering and extracurricular activities. How much does that weigh in the evaluation? COVID basically canceled all volunteering opportunities. We are fully aware that field work, you know, volunteering, helping a lab or another research project in your graduate program or with a local partner were heavily diminished. You know, like I said, your application is a puzzle piece, is a puzzle, and so, you know, it's not going to be like, did you specifically do X amount of volunteering, yes or no? It's going to be, you know, what are your skill sets, what are your background, what are your interests, and how can this opportunity help you achieve your professional and career goals? Not necessarily how many hours you spent volunteering. Or not solely, I guess I should say. All right, I see there's only a handful of attendees left. I don't have anything else for you unless one of you asks the question. Again, I'll stay here for another minute, but then I will sign off completely. Again, thank you all so much for joining us today. I'll post this recording on our website and send it all to the RSVPs later. And not seeing any more questions, I'm going to say thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day and the rest of your week, and start your application today. Thank you.